All right, if you're building any kind of integration in SAP, you already know this. Moving data securely, it isn't just a feature, it's everything. And that's exactly where the SFTP adapter comes into play. So today, we're going to break down what it is, how it works, and most importantly, the key settings you absolutely have to get right to build integrations that are rock solid. Let's jump in.
So, what's the big deal with this thing? It's right there in the official description. See, the SFTP adapter isn't just for, moving files from point A to point B. It's all about creating a secure, encrypted tunnel. Honestly, you should think of it as the digital armored truck for your most critical business data.
So why not just use regular old FTP? Well, the difference is truly night and day. With standard FTP, everything, your username, your password, your data, it's all sent in plain text for basically anyone to see. SFTP wraps all of that up in SSH, the same battle-tested encryption that secures the web. It's the difference between sending a postcard and sending a sealed, certified letter. For any serious enterprise data, it's not even a choice. It's a no-brainer.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the basics, then get right into the two main jobs the adapter can do: sending and receiving files. From there, we'll dig into the most important settings, cover a few common gotchas that trip people up, and then we'll put it all together.
Let's start with the foundation itself. Everything we're about to talk about really comes back to this one core idea: building a channel for your data that you can absolutely 100% trust.
When you set up this adapter, the very first question you have to answer is always the same. Are you picking data up or are you dropping it off? Let's take a look at exactly what that means.
The best way I've found to think about this is like a secure courier service. The sender adapter, it's the courier that drives out to some remote server, picks up a specific package, a file, and brings it back into your SAP system. The receiver adapter, well, it does the exact opposite. It takes a file from your system and securely drops it off at that remote location. It really is that simple. Are you picking up or are you dropping off?
Okay, let's dive into the sender side of things first. This is where your integration is constantly checking or polling a remote server just looking for new files to process. But, and this is a big but, you can't just blindly grab a file the second you see it.
And that right there leads to a classic integration nightmare. Imagine this: a huge file is being uploaded, and your adapter grabs it when it's only halfway done. What do you end up with? A corrupted file and a totally failed process. So the real question is, how do you tell the adapter to just wait until the file is actually ready? The solution is what's called a read-lock strategy, and you've basically got 4 ways to solve this. First, you can use none, but that's only if you're lucky enough to work with a server that guarantees you'll never see a partial file. Next is content change, where the adapter cleverly just watches the file and waits until the size stops changing. A really common one is done file expected. It waits for a separate little signal file to show up before it touches the main one. And finally, there's rename, where your adapter literally claims the file by renaming it, locking everyone else out.
Okay, so you've safely grabbed the file. Awesome. Now what do you do with the original? Well, you can delete it. That's the default, nice and clean. You can move it to an archive folder, which is fantastic for auditing. You can keep it, but mark it as processed in a special list so you never ever read it again. Or, and this is really just for testing, you can leave it there to be picked up over and over again.
All right, let's flip that coin and talk about the receiver. Now, we're the courier, and we're dropping off the file. And just like picking files up, dropping them off comes with its own set of really important rules we need to follow.
So you're about to write a file, and you hit this critical decision point. What happens if a file with the exact same name already exists on the server? You have to tell the adapter exactly what to do. Should it override the old file? Should it append the new data to the end of it? Should it just fail completely and throw an error? Or maybe just ignore the whole thing and move on? The right answer here is going to depend entirely on your business process.
Now, here's a pro tip that will save you a world of pain, especially when you're dealing with a lot of files. To guarantee you never, ever create a partial file on the other end, the secret is to use a temporary file.
Okay, here's how it works. Instead of writing directly to your final file, let's say finalreport.csv, the adapter writes to a temporary name first. Then, once and only once that file is completely written and closed, it performs a single lightning-fast rename to finalreport.csv. It's what we call an atomic operation, and it means no other process can ever catch that file in a half-written state. It's a game changer. So we've got the basics of sending and receiving down. Now let's talk about a couple of key settings and common gotchas that can trip up just about anyone. Think of these as hard-won pro tips from the field.
Oh yeah, this is a classic trap. So the adapter lets you set a file name dynamically using a message header. It's called camel file name. Or you can just check a little box to add a timestamp. Both are super useful. But what happens if you try to use them both at the same time?
The documentation is crystal clear on this one. The append timestamp option always wins. So if you've gone to the trouble of carefully crafting a dynamic file name and a header, but you also check that timestamp box, poof, your dynamic name gets completely ignored. It's a simple rule, but man, it is an easy one to get burned by.
Now for a bigger challenge. In the cloud, it's pretty common to have multiple copies of your integration running at once for performance. But what if they all check the SFTP server at the same time? One might grab file number 3 before another one grabs file number 1. So how do you force them to process files in the correct sequential order? The solution is a single, incredibly powerful checkbox, poll on one worker only. Ticking this box tells the entire cluster of servers to basically elect a leader. Only that one single process is allowed to check for files at a time. This guarantees sequential processing, and it also unlocks the sorting options, which lets you enforce the processing order by name, size, or date. This is the absolute key to reliable in-order file processing.
So there we have it. We've gone from the basics of sending and receiving all the way down to the nitty-gritty settings that solve these real-world problems. Let's just zoom out one last time to see how this all fits together.
You know, when you put all these pieces together, you start to see that the SFTP adapter isn't just another utility. It's the secure bridge connecting your entire SAP landscape to the rest of the world. And mastering it means you're not just moving files around, you're building the reliable, trustworthy connections that modern business absolutely depends on.
And that's our deep dive into the SAP SFTP adapter. We've seen how it secures your data, how it handles all those tricky file operations, and how it keeps things in the right order. So I guess the only question left is, now that you have this powerful, secure bridge at your command, what new integrations are you going to build with it?